Kristin Klager believes in herself. That is something powerful. I hope everyone can know that all it takes is a little faith. Michigan FFA, my best friend, Kristin Klager.
Good afternoon. I was told that I get 2 minutes to rant and rave about the world's most annoying little brother. I'm sorry, I mean state reporter. I read that wrong. So, I will apologize now for the tears in advance, because I know they'll be coming. But before I get ahead of myself, I'll start at the beginning, when we used to get along, when we were little, back when he was shorter than me, and I could still beat him up. We did have our cute moments when we were little, giggling and playing, but when he did shine in that annoying category, I'd throw a laundry basket over top of him and sit on him. Just keep him there. Just laughing, ha, you're stuck now, ha. But as we got older, there was nothing that could hold him. Oh, here's the tears. I already apologized. There was nothing that could stop him or from his goals or his dreams. It started freshman year with those chickens. And as a junior at our local FFA chapter, he was the president. Into his senior year, he was the president not only for our local chapter again, but also for Region 6. Making all of us so incredibly proud, he ran for state office and obviously got that. And again, with those dreams just continuing to shoot so high, he applied for MSU. And while everyone held their breath for that acceptance letter, there wasn't a doubt in my mind that he wouldn't make it. Because after all, the only thing that's held him back was that flimsy laundry basket. So with that, I am incredibly proud and truly honored to introduce to you, for his retiring address, David Lindsay.
Trust the one who's been where you are, wishing all it was sticks and stones. Those words cut deep, but they don't mean you're all alone, and you're not invisible.
I don't get why she cries so much. She needs to toughen up and get over it.
Just look at him. Those glasses? He is such a nerd.
She's acting like a baby. I swear she blows everything out of proportion.
He always has his nose buried in a book. He has no life outside of school.
At some point in our lives, all of us have been stereotyped. You've just heard the ones we've been hearing all throughout high school. We were told this is who we were, but no one ever looked deep enough to see the real us.
When a title is hung over our head, like nerd or jock, especially during high school, it can be hard to wipe away the perceptions people have of us.
My junior year started just like every other, except this was the year I had been dreading the most. Given this is the time that you're taking the SAT, applying for college, trying to save your GPA, and not to mention, now you're an upperclassman, so you have to find a prom date, try out for varsity, and make sure to keep up that reputation you've been working on since freshman year. Except, I had something that made it a lot harder for me. I worried about everything.
According to Webster's dictionary, a nerd is an unstylish, unattractive, or socially inept human being, especially one who focuses on his or her academic pursuits. In school, I was always the class nerd. Now, I never saw that as a bad thing until my freshman year, when I started to care about what others thought of me. I always thought I was just a dedicated student, one who cared about his grades and focused 100% on whatever class he was in. Now, school had always been easy for me. However, when I walked into Mrs. Nelson's class, that all changed.
Something about junior year was different than all of the others. Going to school each day became a challenge. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. I knew it was normal to be stressed, but I knew I shouldn't be this overwhelmed. I started crying over the smallest things. My grades started slipping, and I quit hanging out with my friends. But I had someone who could help. My best friend, Shelby. She listened to me when I told her this wasn't just stress, and rather than calling me crazy, she listened to everything I had to say.
In elementary, math is pretty basic, like 2 + 2 = 4, and 5 × 2 = 10. But in high school, the numbers in the alphabet begin to mix together. Algebra isn't just 2 + 2 = 4, by the way. It's y = mx + g. C? F. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a math whiz. Now, being a dedicated student, I understood the importance of focus in class, but no matter how hard I focused, the work just piled up. And by the time I caught up, my teacher had already moved on. The entire year, I struggled with staying up on the topics and finishing my homework. Now, I could ask those questions in class, but it didn't matter. Because I was the class nerd, I was supposed to know everything.
Despite my efforts to keep everything together, my life felt like it just kind of fell apart. It was when Shelby realized I was becoming a complete different person, is when I realized I needed to ask for help. When I finally quit crying and explained to my mom what I was so worried about, she told me my best option was to see a therapist and a doctor. The words floated around my head all night long. Therapist, doctor. That's it. I'm going crazy. I am losing my mind, and I'm only 16 years old. I was terrified I was going to be told by a medical professional that something was wrong with me. When I finally talked to my doctor, she explained to me that I was the exact definition of a teenage girl with generalized anxiety disorder. Looking back, I realized that my best friend Shelby was influential in keeping me sane when I was at my worst.
Now, I could sit for hours on end practicing graphing, doing my math homework, and studying basic math terminology. But nothing worked. The end of the first semester came, and my GPA had dropped. Fortunately, at the start of the second semester, Katie, who sat 2 rows over from me, noticed I was struggling. She didn't assume that because I was a nerd, I understood every concept covered in class. Instead, she saw me for who I was, a student in her math class that loved school but needed just a little extra help. The entire second semester, Katie sacrificed her own work time to better my understanding. She even offered to help me outside of class when I needed it.
I used to think of people with mental health illnesses as people that needed to be kept in straitjackets. You know, like that one episode of SpongeBob where Mrs. Puff finds herself in a nice padded room after SpongeBob drives her insane. Yeah, that's where I thought I was going to end up. But I realized I had been believing the stereotype that anyone with a mental health illness was straight up crazy. I had also been believing the idea that my own classmates who had been open about their own struggles were just fishing for attention. But I was so wrong. It took being put in their own shoes to realize that mental health illness is way more common than I ever expected. As common as 1 in 5 students. I had no idea my own classmates sitting right next to me were going through the same struggles as I was. And I often wondered, how would things be different if everyone had a Shelby in their lives? If everyone had someone who would listen to them and talk with them through their own daily struggles?
The end of the year came, and it was time for the final. With the help of Katie, I studied for 2 weeks straight and walked into the classroom feeling halfway decent. I made my way to my seat. I pulled out my number 2 pencil and calculator and anxiously waited for Mrs. Nelson to pass at the exams. When I finally received my exam, I took a deep breath and began. Despite Katie's tutoring, most of the questions had seemed foreign. After struggling through the never-ending list of problems, I had finally finished the lengthy exam. When grades were posted, my GPA wasn't quite where I wanted it to be, but I knew without the help of Katie, it would have been much worse. Katie was able to see through the stereotype of nerd and realize that even though I loved English, I still struggled with math. It was with her encouragement I realized it was time to reevaluate myself. I felt less pressured at being great at all subjects and became more comfortable with asking questions in class. Stereotypes are something we all have in common, but when we recognize the struggles, we see past them and we can work together to overcome them.
Stereotypes are just like judging a book by its cover. They are created without a true knowledge for what lies beneath. As humans, we have a tendency to judge, analyze, and put people and things into categorized boxes. These boxes directly translate into expectations. Expectations of what we should say and do, who we should hang out with, and what opinions we should have.
These judgments and expectations could be right or wrong, but do they really define us? When we see through the surface and look deep past a stereotype, we can find incredible things about a person. The person with original thoughts and feelings that cannot be defined.
Everyone has struggles, pitfalls, and insecurities. But everyone also has talents and traits that set them above the rest. Don't be the person to judge someone based on their labels. Instead, be the one to notice their strengths.
When we see through the surface, we can learn something new about anybody. We can all take 5 minutes out of our day to learn something new about someone else. Be the person to start looking beyond the surface.
See through. Ask the jock about their weekend, not just about the game.
See through. Ask the class clown about their goals and their aspirations. Don't assume they aren't serious about their future.
See through. Talk to the quiet girl. Learn something about her that no one's ever cared to learn before.
See through. Talk to the nerd. Discover his hobbies outside of school.
Ditch the expectations and break away from stereotypes. What is on the surface does not define us. Everyone here can take time out of their day to get to know all aspects of the people around them.
Michigan FFA, see through.
Kristin, I have never known anybody to be able to pop out of bed and be ready in only 5 minutes. Thank you for sharing all the middle and front of all pictures with me this past year. You are not afraid to show the world the real Kristin and are an inspiration for all of us to just be ourselves in every moment. This past year has been an incredible journey and wouldn't have been the same without you. Michigan FFA, our Region 2 State Vice President, Kristin Klager.
David, you're the most energetic and passionate person I know. Your energy and enthusiasm lights up our team all the time. You will do anything in any situation, are always willing to help a friend out, even if that's taking care of my hamster this past holiday. I'm happy to have gotten to know you and be able to call you one of my closest friends. Michigan FFA, our state reporter, David Lindsay.
Maybe a reason why all the doors are closed, so you could open one that leads you to the perfect road. Like a lightning bolt, your heart will